Welcome to episode 2 of Exploiting the Explicit with Abigail Hathaway, where we exploit explicitly what is right in front of us to learn deeper meanings and perspectives of man, mind, and soul through theories, hypotheses of philosophy, psychology, and anything else that comes to mind. And this is my special guest, round 2 of Corey Diamond. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you for having me again. I'm happy to be back, and I'm ready. I'm pumped up. After the first episode, this one really had me ready to come back and,
Solid.
do some more chit-chat.
Right, we're here for round 2. 2025, we're coming alive.
2025, coming alive.
Yes. And,
Yeah.
right? That's how I'm feeling. And who else has joined us on the 2025 Coming Alive? Let us know in the comments below. Tell us how you're coming alive.
Yes, we would love to read that.
And, Corey, how are you coming alive?
Oh, man, so many ways I'm coming alive in 2025. I have been just so, enriched with creative energy lately. Just started my Fuego Fridays back up, so
Explain.
I've been putting out, so Fuego Fridays, it was something I started a couple years ago where I was just putting out like a freestyle every week and just to express my creativity and kind of got out of the habit, but now I'm like, it's a new year. I got, re-energized with the opportunities my way, and so I'm like, I should just get back into Fuego Friday. So I'm putting out a new song every week, and I'm excited about it. So I just dropped a new song today, and it's called Haters.
Haters. All right, and you guys gotta listen to it. Talk about 2025 coming alive. It's one of the lines he drops.
Yes, I was inspired.
Mm-hmm. We'll put the link in the bio or the description. Round 2 of the podcast. I'm still getting used to all the ins and outs, the tech, and the terminologies that YouTubers use.
Very good.
Podcasters cast.
Very good.
Solid. So, today, what are we going to talk about, Corey? I have a theory. Passion. You've been talking about your passion of Fuego Fridays and dropping those bars, doing your thing, being in that creative flow. And passion, how I see it, is you pass ions on.
Mm-hmm.
Passion, right? So passion is so inspiring, like you become a beam of light when you live in passion, and people are drawn to that because you're radiating an energy, it's a flow state. And what is flow? Light, and so genuine passion captures an audience because you're passing on that energy, pass ions, pass the ion to you. It's a reflection back as well. You pass your ions out, and now the eyes are on you. Because they're like, oh, what's that? It's contagious. It's radiating. And people want that, especially when they're not living in passion. It's foreign. So they're like, ooh, what is this? So I believe passion over pennies, and the pennies will come. Focus on what it is that you're meant to do, that energy you're supposed to pass on to others, and then all things will just shape and evolve around you to come to you. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And kind of like how you talk about like the passion passing the ions, and it reminded me of another thing that you said before about like the inspiration, how you like inspire and it sticks in you. Like, passion is one of those things that's like magnetic, and it's like, for example, if you talk to someone who really loves some nerdy thing, like they love trains or something, or they love like tanks, and it's like, you probably wouldn't care about those things normally if that's not your thing, but somebody who's passionate and like pumped up about it, you get pumped up too, because you're like, all right, I want to hear about this. Right. And like, you end up learning something that you didn't know before, because they're passing over that energy, that frequency to you, and you're like inspired by it. And you're like, I never thought about that subject in that way. And so it is interesting how like magnetic and like inspirational passion can be when somebody is filled with it. And so it's interesting to think about, like, what ways can people learn how to like build that passion when they don't have it, you know? Like, where does passion come from?
Right. How do we tap into it? How do we let it naturally flow from us without that hindrance or blockage? You know, it kind of reminds me of an artist, you know, and bands, like the passion they have for those songs. They have to sing them and perform them over and over and over, and you can't do that without having a passion and that becoming one with the music. And then the audience, they know the lyrics. They vibe with it. It's like, because the energy, the passion of the music, of the song, is being passed on to them. So it's like kind of like the cellular osmosis we've spoke of. You know, they're saturated with that energy, and then it becomes seeped into the people around them.
Well, and like, being a performer myself, like, it's nothing like being on stage, and I'm sure you could probably relate to that from your past performing career as well. But like, when I'm on stage, I feel the most alive I ever felt, and it's not just because like I'm passing the ions onto them, but it's a synergetic thing. So like, the crowd feeds you as well with their passion, their excitement, their energy, and so it's like this really, it can be this really, like, I don't know the way to describe it, but it's like going into another dimension when you are like passionate in front of people, you know?
It's like an amplifying flow.
Like a dance almost.
Just, like, yes, and then it builds this momentum, and it's stronger and stronger and more powerful. Kind of like if you've ever been on stage in front of a crowd where they completely resist you, and like, you can't even speak. You can't talk. So, you can't even say something that you've repeated a million times. It's happened to me. Like, when I was doing comedy, I got on stage once. I was at like this underground club, and I couldn't, all my Abigailisms, things that I repeat every day, all of the little puns with my name, I couldn't even introduce myself because I could feel the resistance of the crowd and everybody there, that no one wanted to receive what it was that I was sending, to where it was a complete blockage. Versus if you're in front of that crowd and there's that synergy and they're receptive, right? The receptors, they're going to receive it, and it flows to them. It's energy exchange. And how powerful and quickly that energy can exchange between two, well, as we are transmitters and receivers. You know, we're antennas, we're electrical beings. That's all dependent on the amps of the energy, literally. Like, how amped up are you? Why do people say that? Oh, I'm amped up.
Right.
You know? Like,
fired up.
Right.
What do you guys think? Have you had any experiences with passion? And what are some ways that you have felt pumped up by someone, or felt drained by someone? Which kind of makes me think about something that came up as we were talking about this, and you talked about the blockage. Is some people are able to like drain the passion out of a person,
right?
And it's like being so careful to like protect your energy when you are a passionate person. Like, I think if passion comes to you naturally, like, you have to be even more careful to like protect that, because you're like a source of passion
right.
for people, and when they feel that, it's like, oh wow, yeah, let me get some of that. Let me get some of that passion that this person has, because yeah, it's like being on fire, like when you are actually living in that flow state,
right?
And like I think it's meant for it to be received more reciprocally by people that are going to feed that and like help you grow that and cultivate that passion in life. Because when you just kind of get in those situations where people are just kind of like take that passion away, yeah, it's
parasites. They siphon it.
Yeah, they siphon the passion out of a person.
Siphon the soul.
Yeah, and sometimes you can overcome it, but it's like it's not a fun experience. Like I've performed sometimes in front of crowds that weren't expecting a rapper to be there, and I just like did my thing, and people would just kind of like sit there. But I had to learn how to switch the energy, and that's something I don't think like people who aren't like experienced performers can learn how to like shift the energy of a room. But I had to learn how to like, okay, this audience is dead. Like, how do I like find those 2 or 3 people that's matching my frequency and then amplify that to the rest of the crowd? But that's something that I learned how to do, and it's helped me in other areas of life, whether I'm like in like a work atmosphere or at a party meeting people, like how to switch the energy in a space when it's negative. But it's all about like finding someone else who matches your frequency and then amplifying that. I don't know if you ever experienced that before.
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like a whole spectrum.
Yeah.
Like I've experienced all the way from the soul suckers to like the energy vampires, all the way to the individuals that you become more magnified.
Yeah.
Like who they're around. It's like tuning forks in a way. It's like every individual resonates at its own frequency, at their own frequency. So kind of like a tuning fork. And you know how if you get like one of those kits of tuning forks and you ding one and it makes you kind of feel like, ooh, but then you find the one that feels like it's attuned to you. It's like you can attune yourself to people, and you can sense it. That's why you can like be around people. I mean, comparing it to dating, I don't know if any of you have ever been on a date where you just walk on that date and you're like, oh, absolutely not. Like, not based off of physical looks, but based off of literally the energy that you feel. But then there's other people that you go on dates with and you're like, oh my gosh, I just love this. Like, it's just, you just feel so alive. Like, you can't explain it. It's, there's a whole spectrum of that energy exchange. And it dictates the flow of what you do and what you think and how you behave.
Yeah, and it's in terms of dating, like there's actually a word that they use for that, but it's like chemistry, right? What is chemistry? It's like that is energy, right? And it's the ions, and like if those ions aren't matching up, then it's dead,
Exactly.
And some people, they're able to like generate chemistry. That's like called charisma, and that means that they're able to like channel that chemistry in people, even if it's not there. And it's like energy is one of those things I feel like we could do a whole show on, because it's one of those things that can't always be scientifically tested, but there's also still a whole subgenre of science dedicated to energy and how you can measure certain kind of spiritual things like quantum physics and metaphysics and things like that. Like there's so much to it that like there's actual science behind the stuff that we feel and we can utilize and manipulate, but we don't know the science behind it. So to me, that's interesting. How like you can't always test things. I forget what it was. I was reading something the other day, or listening to something the other day, where they were like, science hasn't caught up to the place where you can test certain spiritual things.
Right.
But it's a lot closer to that than it was 1,000 years ago or 100 years ago.
Right.
And so
there's more data points now.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah. And so
and I find it interesting because there's been many times that I've experienced those unseen, like metaphysical, like spiritual things, and then I collected empirical evidence by experiencing and observing it in my own day to day and study patterns. I see patterns like everywhere I go. So to me, it's like stimuli where if it just gathers all this data to paint a big picture in my mind, and then I'm exposed to a theory someone came up with in science that confirms what it was that I saw organically and naturally without ever having that perception or that theory imposed upon me first and foremost.
Right.
I learn it through observation first, and then it's confirmed based off of others' input that I'm far removed from. Kind of as they say, I don't know why I'm just feeling this, that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Notice how every single time you come up with like kind of that next level of consciousness, all of a sudden something appears to affirm it and build it and grow it and amplify it for you, not only it to solidify, but also for you to become even like aware of it on an even greater scale. Have you experienced that?
So what's the concept? It kind of, that one kind of went past me a little bit.
Yeah. Kind of like you observe something, you experience something, and then all of a sudden you start getting approached or receiving or everything that's happening around you out here, like kind of like the book Outwitting the Devil, right? You went through that whole experience, and then I mentioned that book, and then you read it, and it amplified and solidified everything. Like the external theories and concepts came into you after you had already learned that it, so then it solidifies.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's like everything I feel like is connected in a way, and everything's synergistic, and like, you know, God, He will prepare you, like He'll prep you. He'll like, He doesn't always give you everything at once. Sometimes God speaks to you through breadcrumbs, and like He'll put like a seed there. That's the way they explain it, and that's what it says, like faith the size of a mustard seed. It's the smallest inkling of faith, right? And so God, a lot of times He'll deposit these like mustard seed sized nuggets inside of you that you don't always understand until they start to sprout, and He'll use other people or situations or a song or a movie to like cause that mustard seed to start to grow a little bit, and you'll be like, oh dang, like this is what that meant, you know what I mean? And it's like strange when those connections get made, you know?
Yes, exactly. That's such a better way of putting what I was expecting.
I think it's how you experience it, you know?
Literally.
And so, that's kind of how I think about that. But it's so much out here, so much that we can, I think if we had like a working framework to explain what was going on, we would probably be more effective in life. Like there's like some financial principle stuff I've been learning lately that's been connecting like spiritual things to finances, and one of the things they say is like you know, money is a spiritual thing, and it's like a spiritual representation of a person's stage of consciousness or their level of, you know, connection to God, alignment, right? And how like, you know, a lot of the things that you think can either like bring wealth into your life, or it can block wealth from your life. And it's all energy. Like if you think about like
it's all
money,
physics.
It's all physics. It's all physics. And so like money holds energy on it. Like money is representation energy, and then
kinetic energy.
It's kinetic, right? And it's like if people think about it, it makes so much sense to think about money as a spiritual thing. Like it's all faith. Like money is so much faith. It's like you check your bank account on your phone, it's just a representation of something that you never
of what
see,
you're
like
doing.
of what you're doing.
Right.
Like
because if you were following the Holy Spirit within and living your path and doing what it is, that passion, then you would be passing your energy out, and the exchange would be energy, which would be the representation of money in that form.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like you can go like a whole year, for example, in this day and age, you can go a whole year without touching any cash, for example. But you know that you have money just because you look on a phone and that's what it said that you have.
Right.
That's just faith. Like, if you haven't never seen it, you haven't never touched it, then you're just believing that this is what...
That it's there.
That's there.
All of a sudden, it just disappear.
It's like, just numbers.
My hotel points in the app, it says I have none all of a sudden, and I didn't spend them, so where did they go? Like,
you gotta figure that out. But yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, it's just the digital representation is totally aligned with whatever output. And that's another thing that I've been learning that's really been clicking for me is like your net worth is synonymous with the value you are providing to the world and the way you are able to balance that value with your ability to manage resources.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So it's like if you are only producing this amount of value, then you should be like managing your resources like so much smaller to where that amount isn't taking up your value. But what a lot of people like to do, they like to produce this amount of value, but they have this amount of resources.
Yeah.
And that's why it's hard for them to get ahead. And so you either need to reduce the way that you are allocating your resources or like increase the value you provide. And it's not saying that like someone who makes a little bit of money that their career is not valuable, but the way in which they are like providing that value isn't unique enough for them to make more.
Well, it comes down to physics, so it's building momentum. So it's all about action. You could have, you could be the most valuable person internally. You could have so much to give, so much to serve, but yet you don't act upon it. It stays in here. It never gets released out here. You have to act. And what is momentum? You know, repetition in a singular trajectory. And in order to like aim at something, so if you want to aim higher, like how we talked about ascension, like swinging that pendulum to the other side of positivity, then you need to create constant action, you know, in a singular path to hit that aim, versus if you're not acting. I mean, that's where money comes from. That's why even
action, act on.
Yes, right. Act eye on. Act energy. On. Yes. And act, have your eye on the act. You know, so wow, we could just keep breaking down all these words to find the meaning hidden within the code of language.
No, I totally agree, and it's like that's something else that I hope the audience can understand about what I'm saying too, in terms of like, you know, the financial representation and the value is like everybody has something that they can provide a value that gains them a higher net worth than what they have. But it's so much more scary to go out and like provide that thing because you don't see the immediate result.
Right. You have to have the faith.
When you are operating from that creative source, it really is like planting a seed. And sometimes, if anybody is familiar with agriculture, you have to plant a lot of seeds, and sometimes the seeds don't all grow, and some do. And so it's like when you are like expanding whatever thing that you're inspired to do, if you get discouraged just because a couple seeds didn't start growing, then it's like, you know what? It's probably better for me to stay in a safe space instead of trying to like continue to plant these seeds. And so many people, they, you know, get discouraged when a seed doesn't grow, that it keeps them from like building that passion, that dream
it's
that
fear.
they have down inside of them.
It's fear of it's the risk. It's fear of loss.
Yes.
And like we've talked about before off camera, how evil and the devil, let's say, just wants you to be in that state of comfort and repetition. It's just a way to keep you from living that passion, following the Holy Spirit and that intuition within, to have the faith that you plant all these seeds and some of them are going to grow. And yes, you have to go without a harvest, without the crop for some time, but you always have faith that you'll be able to reap the rewards of the seeds that you plant.
Right.
And thinking anything else is just it's evil speaking through you or trying to take hold of you. It's a spiritual war. And let's say if we have like two puppets in us, like one is evil, one is love, one is the devil, one is God, then we have to just remember that those thoughts and those impulses that come in are going to be from both sides, regardless of where we're at on any spectrum. And it's our choice to take an action of whether or not we're going to capture that thought. And act upon that thought. Now, if we capture that thought and then take ownership of it, then through action and repetition, we can then embody it, and then it becomes us. Whether that takes us down the path towards negativity and the path to hell, or the path of positivity and the path of growth into heaven. So either decay, the action, the thought that we capture, and the action we take can either lead us into a decay or can lead us into a growth.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And something that was coming up for me as you were talking is just like the importance of like having the right like people, because even sometimes it's not even always like God or the devil, but it's somebody else who doesn't really like have the same faith that you have that can kind of like talk you out of whatever passion or dream that you have. Because they aren't the right people to be around you while you're planting, And so it's important to have people that are going to like either teach you like how your skills are in terms of farming, for example. Like they're gonna be like, yeah, if you plant during this time of the year and this kind of soil, you want to treat the soil this way, and they give you all the tips, then you can actually be more successful than if you were around people that like, yeah, the dirt here sucks. You're never gonna grow nothing. Like you better off just,
because they're saturated with the wrong energy and they're unsaturated with the energy you want to match. Therefore, they suck that energy from you while you also getting nothing back. It takes from you what you don't have, and then you start to gain what it is they have, which is that negativity and that
dry
pessimism,
wasteland,
because you're unsaturated with it, and now you're just through the natural forces becoming saturated with it.
So
it's really
out there,
important.
do you guys know any people that are good, like inspirational sources to help you push you further, or do you know people that are kind of like talking you out of your dreams? Something to think about.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I really appreciate like the just the opportunity to reflect on that, because just talking about passion in the beginning of this podcast helped me to think about just how like magnetic and absorbent we are as spiritual beings, and how important it is to be mindful of like all of the different ions that are being passed back and forth if you are actually trying to get to where you are meant to be in life, because it's just kind of drifting through each day, like checking off the boxes and just being uninspired is, I feel like, a challenge for most people nowadays. And like I think just being mindful of that and having the opportunity to say, what am I doing? Like, what kind of energy am I absorbing? From who? From what? And like paying close attention to it. The same way you pay attention to your diet, what you eat, you pay attention to, what you watch on TV, you pay attention to, what music you listen to. You have choices in life. Like you can also choose like what kind of energy you're consuming as well. because the energy you're consuming is going to have direct effects on the way that you feel and the way that your life begins to develop for you.
Right. As you can just tell in any group setting, like group think and group dynamics, like you start hanging around a group of people, you just start to morph like them.
Yes.
And think like them, and then all of a sudden you forget who you were before you started hanging out with them.
Yes.
And sure. individual people as well.
Yeah, and not to shamelessly plug, but it kind of reminds me of the song I just released about haters.
Yes,
because the thing about haters is they are some of the worst people to be around when you want to pursue your passion or your dream, because they have a great way of weaseling their way close to you to make you feel like they're your friends or that you're safe with them.
Right.
But then they say cutting remarks or discouraging things to pull you down.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I don't think like haters that you don't know are as damaging as haters that you know, because when you have haters in your life that you feel close to, sometimes the comments that they make can hurt 10 times more, you know?
Definitely, because you let them in.
Yes. Yeah.
So they have more damage that they can do because they're not blocked behind a shield. They're on the inside.
Yeah. And so just being mindful that the people that you are surrounding yourself with are protecting your energy, and that they care as much about your energy as you care about your energy, you know? Because at the end of the day, you have to be your own cheerleader, so to speak. You have to be the only one that is going to look out for yourself. Because people, we each have our own motivations and our own goals in life, and doesn't make one person good or one person bad. It's just the human nature. Is we have our own energy sources to protect, and so we can't make someone else responsible for our energy the same way they shouldn't make us responsible for their energy, you know?
Exactly.
We each have to cultivate and protect and monitor our own energy sources as well.
Right, teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes.
We need to all cultivate this positive, uplifting vibration and then become saturated with it. So then when we're together, we amplify one another's saturation of it instead of pulling and taking.
Yes. Yeah. And energy is also something that is it can transmit digitally as well.
Yes.
And so everybody out there, send us some good energy. Send us some good vibes so we can feel it. I love when people send me good energy, and make sure you put a comment in the chat to so we can read it and get some of that energy, because energy transmits through words. It transmits through letters on the screen. You can transmit
through eyesight, through presence, through thought.
Yes.
We really want to get deep into it on the
We want to get
level.
deep.
Hey.
This is exploiting the explicit. Let's get deep.
We're here to exploit. Explicitly what's right in front of us. The unseen.
Yes.
As well. As the seen.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. Well, speaking of exchange of energy, if you have enjoyed Exploiting the Explicit so far, please subscribe, and comment.
Yes.
And stay tuned for our third episode of Exploiting the Explicit, coming soon.
Thank you.
And don't forget, Corey Diamond, he has released his single, Haters, which we will have a link in the description.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks.
Hopefully somebody was touched by the episode, and hopefully I'll be back again.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you, Corey, for making a diamond of the episode as well. And good night, good day, and farewell until next time.